All right. Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Ghost Show. That is, of course, the theme song to the non existent Dracula and the Temple of Funk, the most chair danceable song in America, as science has proven. Welcome. I am Professor Christopher McLaughlin, and I have the best job in the universe. I am the creative pit boss of Ghost Show Press, which means that I get to work with fabulously talented and creative people like Bill Bodden and Jason Walters, who are joining us tonight to talk about our current ongoing Kickstarter. And Bill, would you like to introduce yourself to the folks?
Sure. My name is Bill Bodden. I'm a author of a number of short stories and a whole lot of stuff in the gaming industry. I wrote an essay in the previous anthology for Ghost Show Press on horror, and my story in that was for the film Congo.
All righty, and here we go. And here we go. And hello, Mike. Hello, Mike. Hello, Mike. We'll get all right. It was all right. Jason's turn, and then I'll get and then I'll bring you in here. So, Jason, please introduce yourself to the folks.
Hi, I am Jason Walters. I also participated in the last collection and wrote an essay on the original Frankenstein from 1931. My day job is I sell role-playing game books through the distributor Indie Press Revolution.
All righty. And running in at the last minute, but always welcome, the godfather of the Banff family of podcasts, the one and only Mike Lafferty of Fainting Goat Games. Mike, introduce yourself to the folks.
Well, I don't know if I can live up to that hype, Chris. Thank you very much. Also, the Midwestern Salsa Dance Champion in the Husky Caucasian division. Can't forget that. But yeah, honored to be here. Chris is kind enough to let me join this podcast with people much more intelligent and better spoken than I am. I'm just happy to be here. So thanks for having me along.
Always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure, sir. All righty. Well, this is your first time here at the Ghost Show. We here at Ghost Show Press, we are a creators first publishing imprint where we try to treat the writers like a rock star and not beat them like rented mules, like some other companies I could mention. We don't plagiarize. We pay on time and in full. We don't make them beg for author's copy. We don't do rewrites behind their back. Every word in every single one of our books has been written by our writers and no one else, and approved by our writers and no one else. And we are currently in the midst of a series of books called Everyone's Gone to the Movies, and if you get that reference, you are of my tribe. And we a year ago successfully kickstarted Volume 1, Transgressive Horror, sporting the works of such amazing creators as Bill Bodden and Jason Walters, as mentioned. And we are now currently trying to kickstart Volume 2, this being 1, Volume 2, Subversive Sci-Fi. And you can, oh, well, here we go. Now that I know how to do this. There you go. There's the link for our Kickstarter.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we currently have 13 days to go. We are 54% funded. It has been an amazing and wonderful output of support from people that loved our first book, are excited about the second one, or with the amazing number of people who've contributed with no reward, just like the way that we do business. And we thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. And we really, really feeling good about our chances on Volume 2. And hope that you will keep spreading the word about the good work that we have done and want to continue doing. Because the great thing about if Volume 2 funds, that lays the groundwork for Volume 3, 4, 5, and 666, which I'm guessing would have to be about horror films again. But yes, and we're here tonight to let some of our creators talk about what they have done for this book. And if any of y'all have any questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat, and we'll be happy to tell you about anything that's happening with this book, the wonderful things these gentlemen are doing outside of GSP, or just anything in general about sci-fi movies, or what the heck, you need some lotto numbers. We all have dice. We could come up with something here. All righty. Well, I'm gonna hand this over to Bill Bodden first of all to talk about what you're doing for Subversive Sci-Fi.
Right. The film that I picked for Subversive Sci-Fi was Brazil. I thought it was a really intriguing film, and as I did some research on it, I found out the kind of hoops and just out and out machinations that Terry Gilliam had to go through to get the film in front of American audiences. It was ridiculous. He ended up having to take out a full page ad in Variety, the film industry's newspaper, and say to the director of the studio, "Hey, when are you going to release my film?" And that was literally just the beginning. It was very complicated and intriguing, almost more intriguing than the film itself in some ways.
I remember watching an interview with him and Robert De Niro doing promo for that show, and it was well, you probably know the story better than I do. It was a little odd.
It was a little odd, yeah, and it's also interesting hearing how Gilliam interacted with some of the stars of the film too. De Niro does come to mind. That's a story all by itself. A short one, luckily, but it's an interesting story too. And I see we have someone else who's joined us.
Yes. We'll pause for a moment in discussing Brazil. Welcome Rob Toth to the show. Hey Rob, welcome.
Good to see y'all.
Hey, Rob's been a frequent guest here on the podcast. We're always glad to see him. But for those of you that are new to him and his work, he contributed a fabulous piece on the Dead Zone for Volume 1 and is back for Volume 2, talking about the first original 1975. And why don't we just call it the only version of Rollerball at this point?
Fair enough.
I agree with that assessment. It is the only version.
All righty. Well, Bill, I one of the many reasons I hope this funds is I want more people to see the amazing work that you did on Brazil, because I thought you did a great job of explaining how this one of a kind film, isn't it amazing how everything Terry Gilliam does is one of a kind. How it stands out just on its own terms, and the insane things he had to do just to get that film released. And in a way, I thought, this reminds me so much of why I started this company and the kind of things I want to never do to creators. So it's like I really felt like the in many ways like the heart and soul of the company and what you wrote. So I thought it's just an amazing piece of writing, sir.
Thank you. That's really high praise. I appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. Much deserved. All righty. And Jason, speaking of groundbreaking films, Jason, are you with us? Oh, there you are. Yes. I cannot thank you enough for tipping me off to the existence of Death Machine. Yes.
Well, I think of the many groundbreaking things about Blood Machines, probably its unique feel of combining 2001: A Space Odyssey with Space Hunter: Adventures in the Forbidden Zone into sort of one film alone deserves to put it in this collection. I chose Blood Machines because I had found myself for the last half a decade really disappointed with big budget science fiction films, and equally disappointed with what I was sort of seeing on Netflix and Amazon Prime in terms of the content they were making on a more limited budget. And I learned about this film, which was created by an artist collective called Seth Ickerman, with its soundtrack by Carpenter Brut. These are not real names. They are all French. And it was crowdfunded and made in basically a warehouse for $125,000. And it is astoundingly fun and I hate to say transgressive over and over again, but really pretty transgressive. And I should say, in all honesty, that now that I have seen Villeneuve's Dune, I now have seen a big budget science fiction film that I've liked in the last half a decade, but it took a while.
Wow.
Apparently, this entire movie, which is a short movie, it's only about a little less than an hour, I think, maybe like 48 minutes. Is actually the sequel to a brief video you can watch for free on YouTube called Turbo Killer. So you don't usually see a film that's made as a sequel to a music video, but here it is. I guess what I liked about the movie is that it asks the question: do machines have souls, and can machines be victims? Can machines be victimized by human beings? And I think the film pretty definitively answers yes. Or at least strongly implies yes. Yes, they do, and yes, they can. I won't spoil it for everyone by telling you more, but at least the protagonist of the film is kind of icky. He doesn't start out that way, but he quickly reveals himself to be unpleasant. So it has that sort of flip of sympathies in a film that I like to see. And yeah, I guess that's it. If Rob wants to talk about his selection.
Oh boy. Well, is there anything that you wanted to ask? I've talked about the film a couple times here already, and I don't want to bore anybody.
Well, I actually wanted to bring you in on a comment that I wanted to make about Jason's film.
Okay.
Because it raises a point I think you could speak to better than any of us. But I'll raise it, and then I'll pass to the open man here.
Okay.
Watching it, I loved your 2001 Space Hunter combination thing, but in a way, it also reminded me of some of my absolute favorite 70s films that were made during that window where a filmmaker could absolutely lose his mind on screen and have a major studio pick up the tab for it. Like Friedkin's Sorcerer, or the film I'm really thinking of here, Boorman's Zardoz. There's whatever else you can say about Zardoz, there's nothing else like this. But this is exactly what he wanted on screen, with all of the mad, beautiful insanity to it. And then you throw in this unsympathetic protagonist in many ways. And it hit that part of my soul where, French Connection and A Boy and His Dog live. So, yeah. So I defer to the expert on 70s sci-fi. Rob, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I would say, to the extent that I understand this stuff at all, that the transition for me from the 60s to the 70s in sci-fi was sort of you had the naturalism, the maturation of the scripts, a step up in what was possible in terms of special effects, kind of a new attempt to do character where you didn't have like the stock character of the scientist and the girl in distress. You had characters who were on the ground, who were doing comprehensible things, like A Boy and His Dog, like Logan's Run to a certain extent, where it's just a guy and you understand him. He's a cop, he's doing this stuff, and more in general, you just had like the vibe of the times, which was the independent vibe and kind of the anti-heroic, the downbeat and that incorporated itself into sci-fi too. And it was, it's an interesting shift, and I don't think it was a sustainable mood for films, because ultimately, who wants to watch stuff that's so downbeat all the time. And but
What we have Twitter for.
Indeed, but for the stuff that we got out of it, there's some pretty extraordinary films, and I think there are still films that hit that good spot where you've got stuff that's a little bit more sophisticated, but it still has the viewability or the compulsiveness to it that you want to see. And again, a lot of them are very personal statements. I think as I came in, we were talking about Brazil, right?
Yes.
My favorite line about that film, and it's probably going to be too obscure for words, but I heard a critic say that it was as if Evil and Waugh wrote 1984. And I just thought that was a brilliant analysis of it, because it's like such, it's such its own thing, and it's such a perverse take on the idea of an intrusive government and all that, and kind of the assaults on the human spirit. And I like the latitude that came out of the 70s, and it's always very, very nice to see it pop up again, as rare as it is. I still have not watched your film, Jason, but I will try to get around to it, because it sounds amazing.
I think when you're done, you'll ask yourself, should the French not be allowed to make films, or should only the French be allowed to make films?
Well, I asked that after The Fifth Element, so.
Which our good friend Ade Smith does a great job of putting it in its proper place in subversive sci-fi. So Fifth Element fans, we hear you, we obey. We talk about your movie.
Is it inappropriate that we're letting a British person talk about a French film? It seems like we're setting ourselves up for something there.
Well, in a way, yeah, because I don't want to take too much from Aid talking about, because I still hoping to have him on the show at some point. But like his pitch to me, giving you the my very short impression of it, was what makes Fifth Element so subversive is it came out at roughly the same time as like the god awful big budget Godzilla remake. And it's a film that dares to be, and these are my words, not his, I don't get Aid in trouble, it's just so fucking European. It's just, it is as if you film je ne sais quoi. It's just nothing an American would ever even think of making. Whether you love it or you hate it.
Has anyone made it through Big Bug yet?
I've never heard of Big Bug.
A new French science fiction film by the guys that made City of Lost Children and Delicatessen.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
it was released streaming, I think,
on
on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried. I got through a little bit of it, and then I don't know. It was late. I was tired. I wasn't determined enough. I wasn't committed enough. I guess nobody else here was either.
That just came out this year. That's 2022.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I Delta Contestants, one of my 5 favorite movies ever. I had no idea that this was Jean-Pierre Jeunet. No, yeah, that's those people. A group of bickering suburbanites find themselves stuck together when an android uprising causes their well-intentioned household robots to lock them in for their own safety. That'd be a great RPG session.
They're well-intentioned household robots. They're using as sex slaves for the most part.
Oh man,
that's part of the subtext.
Oh.
This sounds like
I suppose, in Japan.
It sounds like a rejected pitch from when DC was modernizing and adulting all their Hanna-Barbera properties. I could just see somebody walking into Didio's office and go "So Rosie's a sex robot." But in the best possible way.
In a classy.
I'd also like you all to know that during our last live stream, my
Yes.
soon-to-be son-in-law walked behind us and peered at the whole thing briefly and walked past, and later asked me, "Wow, are you guys all wizards? You seem like wizards." And I thought about the fact that we spent perhaps 10 minutes debating whether or not Fantastic Planet was a genre unto itself or part of a genre, and I said, "Yeah, Ian, yeah, we're pretty much wizards. There's no other way around it."
Grant,
Very
Grant
wizardy
Morrison has asked me
conversation.
not to use that word, so I can't say I'm a wizard. But that's interesting.
Why
But he is.
why is wizard a bad word now?
You have to ask Grant. It was a long conversation.
Well, next time he intersects with this dimension, next time they intersect with this dimension, I will be sure to ask them. Okay. But what a great talented guy! It's just he can be they can be their own thing as much as they want, because I love their work. Yes. All righty. So yeah, but getting back to our ballywick of films here. All right. So Mike, do you have any offbeat favorites of your own?
Well, Delicatessen, I just mentioned, was, like I say, one of my favorite films ever. And when you approached me about doing an essay, I was like, well, I don't really have any great insights into science fiction movies. And it didn't even occur to me that Delicatessen would be considered a science fiction movie, although it's classified as sci-fi comedy. I just always thought of it more a madcap absurd comedy. But so if I had to pick one, that would probably be it.
Oh, all right. Well, for the people who might not be familiar with it, could you give us the short version?
Jason, feel free to tag in if I don't do it justice. So it's a post-apocalypse in the French suburb, and they don't really give you too many details what kind of apocalypse happened. But there's a hotel, a boarding house that has a want ad, and there aren't really many animals left after the apocalypse, and everyone in the boarding house is a meat eater. So every so often they put out an ad for a handyman, and they let some poor schlub come to their house, fix their stuff, then they kill him and eat him. And that's kind of the context you get in the first 5 minutes. And so this very charming clown shows up, and he wants to live there. And he is sort of a French version of Mary Poppins. He revitalizes the place, brings hope and music into everyone's life. But the butcher, who's a landlord, still wants to kill him. So hilarity ensues. And at one point, the resistance, who are these guys who live in the sewers wearing black PVC suits called the troglodytes, they get involved in trying to save the clown. He falls in love with the butcher's daughter. And it really has kind of the pacing of a madcap comedy from 20 years before it was released, where everything kind of escalates to a crescendo, and it's, everything gets increasingly absurd until, the clown and the butcher's daughter are trapped, in like 30 feet of water, cubic feet, in the bathroom that they've submerged themselves in, it just gets crazy. And it's well worth it. I can't do it any justice. I feel like I've been talking forever just trying to give you the gist. But if you have a chance, it's a beautiful little piece of filmmaking. If you saw Emily, which was much more widely distributed, it's that same kind of vibe, but a lot crazier.
Yes. Well, we'll definitely keep that in mind. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I just remember liking the troglodytes a lot in their kind of black rubber outfits and goggles, and kind of, I don't know, were they kind of, do they kind of hide in the walls in ropes? I mean, they're sort of trying to warn everyone as they rebel against this kind of cannibal tyranny. But I think Mike summed it up very well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film. You should really check it out. And unfortunately, if you
for Rob, oh, sorry, I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to talk over you.
Please, Jason, please go ahead.
I have a question for Rob.
Okay.
Rob, is silent running good?
Well, I have to choose my words carefully here, because I know that there's an essay on that film in this book. I will say this: it is not afraid to be what it is, and it looks amazing. The lead is probably the best anti-hero you'll see, just in terms of the drives and the passion and the mania and the moral ambiguity. I think it's maybe not perfect. There are a lot of things that I think are flawed about it. You know, and you're gonna have to get past the basic premise, which is a little weird. I mean, in terms of the plausibility, and I think it's charming. I'm not sure if it's the kind of film I'd watch over and over again. But you know, you've got the special effects. You have Bruce Dern. You know, you have the craziness. I mean, it's, you know, it's got a lot. In my opinion, though, I don't think it has enough to make it really good. But
It's
and
not
the
often you get a sci-fi soundtrack by Joan Baez.
yeah, that's not an attraction for me.
With PDQ Bach.
Was that?
With PDQ Bach.
Oh, you're kidding, really?
Yeah, it did it under
Wow.
his real name, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've got one for Bill.
Okay.
Bill, if Logan's Run had not been made at almost exactly the same time as Star Wars, would Logan's Run be remembered as a greater science fiction movie than it is today?
I kind of don't think so. I mean, it's the whole sort of youth culture underlying theme that it is grappling with. We still are desperately trying to avoid dealing with any of those issues now. So I think the main theme wouldn't really have captivated people any more than it did.
Right. Are you guys all entertained by this? I'll try this a little more. Just throw some
Oh,
things
that's
out.
fine.
Or am I-
That's fine.
Am I
Fine.
usurping Professor McPhee here?
Can I throw in on Logan's Run first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always tend to side with the creators, and I always thought that Nolan and Johnson were the authors of the original book were right on the money when they said that they had to change some things from the book for budget reasons and whatnot else, but just getting away, making it 30 instead of 21, it kind of loses a lot of its resonance because and no offense to 21-year-olds, 21-year-olds paid for this house and this collection back here, so no brief against young people. I'm just saying a world run entirely by 21-year-olds and under is a very different proposition than people run by people 30 and under.
I currently live in a house that has 3 20-year-olds living in it. I find such a society extraordinarily difficult to imagine.
Well, the book suggests that why one might want to avoid such a fate.
Jason, how are you coping with that, sir?
Well, pretty well. I had, for those of you that don't know me that well, I have, of course, a biological daughter who's almost 13. But I also have had a foster daughter for 4 years, and I have an adopted daughter as well. The adopted daughter has not left home yet, which is fine. She's only just now done really with high school and fully graduating. She took her formal walk this weekend, which was nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My my foster daughter, not that I make these distinctions, you know, amongst ourselves here, but just for anyone here who hasn't caught up with the Jason Show before the pandemic and so forth. You know, she left home for a year and came back, and she did not come alone when she returned to the nest. So now there are 3 19 or 20-year-olds here. And you know, it's gone pretty well, but there are times when I wish they would project me upwards towards the giant laser zapper at the roof of Epcot or whatever happens in Logan's Run. But it's not terrible. All right. Does anyone else have another one, or shall I throw out another one? Maybe this time to Professor.
Well, I
McGee.
wanted to
Well,
add about
Rob,
sorry, sorry,
please,
I'm
Rob.
stepping all over you. The thing that I wanted to add about the youth culture and experience and age is, if you want the greatest 2 hours of your life, you have to play the commentary tracks on the DVD for Logan's Run, because on the one hand, you have
I got that.
the best one I think is with the costume designer, and he's this like old Hollywood hand, and he's trying to explain, well, for this scene, I took these skirts and I dyed them green, and I took all this stuff and I just found it at the thrift store. It was nothing. It's just, and it's like, oh, the voice of experience. There, oh God, I can't believe and then there's one with
Michael York.
Yeah, with Michael York. And I mean, obviously in the film, he's just some young, amazingly attractive guy. So he's doing the commentary, obviously, at a certain age. And, he's talking like, yes. And then I was with the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I was doing, some off Broadway shows, blah, 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 and then there's a scene where like these kids are chasing him in an underground, subway station or something. It's like, oh dear. Anyway, that's the voice of experience.
You can tell he's just trying to go, I was in cabaret, god damn it. Oh yeah. And I have to throw out my favorite bit of silent running trivia. I did a rewatch of the entire 78, 79 Battlestar Galactica when it came out on Blu-ray, and I could finally put together that they were using a lot of stock footage from Silent Running. And they used it particularly in this episode where the Cylons blow up all their food ships, which all these ships from Silent Running can reasonably pass for. And it is pretty obvious now with my older, more hip to special effects eyes that they just take a special effects shot from Silent Running, and then they will jump cut to a random explosion, which is not within a nautical mile of that actual model. And there is one point where they do it from the interior of the domes, but the editor just missed his mark. It's like you see the dome, and then Bruce Dern just steps into frame for a second right before the explosion. It's like almost like they're saying, and guest starring on this week's show, Bruce Dern. Never mind. So yeah. 70s movie recycling, the best kind of recycling. and while we're talking about these movies, and I promise I will shut up after this, I do need to speak up on for Spike Jonze has done a fabulous essay on Silent Running, talking about how it is the first movie that goes for the heart when it comes to robot characters. There were robot characters that were cool before this, but this is the first time that a robot breaks your heart. And it is a deep dive into this movie, and I can't wait for people to see it. And also have to put in a good word for my friend Justin Moreb, who is doing Logan's Run for Subversive Sci-Fi. So we have more to say about both those films. And then Jason, you had a question. You said.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Greatest Russian science fiction film. Go.
I have always had a great fun. Well, now, okay. In fairness, and I promise I am not just saying this to plug the book, but Alex Bledsoe found a film from 72, which is a Soviet, Hungarian, East German production. I honestly cannot even pronounce the title, and I'm not even going to try, but it is Eolomea. And honestly, I got to track this down. It's a film he literally found by accident, and just the way he describes it, I have to run that one down. But pending me actually finding this movie myself, I always liked the film that made it over here as First Spaceship from Venus, because I think it's a little better paced than most of your Eastern Bloc sci-fi films. I, as a fondness for such great 50s tropes as the multinational crew, I love the fact that this is like the Eastern Bloc version of an international crew. It's like, yes, we have a Russian, a Bulgarian, a Mongolian, and somebody from the People's Republic of Congo, representing all the nations, which will of course be leading us into the future. And the special effects, as Russian films tend to be, are fairly impressive. It's got some, like when the guy gets eaten by the blob monster, it's got a little more gravitas to it than many comparable American scenes. I like that they go for what for 62 had to be a downbeat ending. And yeah, it's certainly not a perfect film, and like most Eastern Bloc sci-fi, it's got some genuinely weird moments, but it's one of the few that I've actually seen once and don't mind seeing again. And I have to admit, when I first saw it as a young man, Yoko Tani, I just wow, what a fantastic looking lady. She really is, one of my teenage crushes. So yes.
Was that the film where they find a spaceship filled with dead capitalists?
For once, no.
I'm serious. I seem to remember a Russian sci-fi film. I thought maybe it was that one where they find, and when I say they're dead capitalists, I mean they're all dead and like with liquor bottles in their hand and gambling cards and suits on, and the Russian crew is like, and thus it always ends. That wasn't that one?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. No, different film.
Okay. I'm surprised. I thought you'd pick Stalker or Solaris or something like that.
Well, having just gotten your bio today, I know you're a fan of slower films. I was raised in the southern rural drive-ins. My butt starts to get numb if I don't see a still blow up or somebody head to the cement pond after a decent interval.
Okay.
Do you guys ever see Comrade Detective?
See what?
A short-lived TV show on Amazon. The concept was that it was a found crime show from the Eastern Bloc in the 80s. And that was where a lot of the humor came from. It was kind of like Miami Vice, if Miami Vice was set in Czechoslovakia. They find this guy smuggling in Monopoly board games from West Germany. And somehow the smuggler is dead. They go, oh, perhaps he overdosed, getting high on his own supply. That might be the best joke in the whole series right there. This kind of show reminded me. I'm curious, is anyone doing an essay on heart bleeps?
No, my wow.
No,
was it
why is that funny?
No,
Was it transgressive? It's Andy Kaufman. It has to be, right? No.
Spike Jones, who's doing silent running for me. We have been joking back and forth for 6 months. He was in a chat with me and just said, "Well, I'd do a sci-fi rom-com if I could find one." And I said, "What about Heartbeats?" And there was this long pause, and he goes, "You son of a bitch." So yes, tonight's Heartbeats reference dedicated to Spike. Here you go.
Is that not Andy Kaufman's best film?
No, my Breakfast with Blassie.
I've never heard of that movie. Okay,
Are you familiar with My Dinner with Andre?
Okay, I've heard of that one. Yes.
Okay, Kaufman did the same film with legendary pro wrestling manager Classy Freddie Blassie.
Was this in wide distribution, or do I have to go to a convention and buy it in VHS?
I'm looking it up right now.
But yes, it's Kaufman. It's Kaufman, the lifelong reverent professional wrestling fan, just enraptured by being in presence.
They're in Sambos.
Yes, enraptured by being in the presence of the man who
Sambos.
became Internet geek. Well, it's a shame it's in copyright. We could just screen it now. No. Oh,
I want to. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right now. I want to very much.
well, there you go. There's everybody's Sunday. Back our Kickstarter, and then go. Then there you go. As you know, and then go watch my Breakfast with Blassie. There you go. Your Sunday is complete.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
I'm gonna take a dive into 70s obscurity with a question for Rob now. Everybody ready?
Wait, what? Kaufman? Yes, indeed.
It's not complicated. It's science fiction related.
Okay.
The Hellstrom Chronicle / Frank Herbert's Hellstrom's Hive. Yes or no?
Oh, you know what? I actually just watched Phase 4, but Hellstrom. Have I seen this? I don't know if I've seen this. This is very embarrassing.
It's very
Professor,
strange.
give me a hand with this.
It's like half nature documentary and half kind of frogs. Day of the Animals. That mankind will be punished for its environmental sins, but it'll be the bugs.
See, that sounds amazing to me. So I say go watch it.
It's a slightly less trippy Phase 4.
The narrator keeps saying things like, "It's fortunate ants don't run the world, or do they?" And then Frank Herbert saw it and wrote a novel based on it.
Bill, could the ants do any worse?
Fair.
Clearly, my education is lacking.
Yeah. We're talking 100% employment, people. I, for one, welcome our insect overlords. All righty. Well, I just killed my own show. Go ahead.
We're doing an essay on Rick and Morty because they actually have insect overlords on that program.
We haven't done TV series yet, but
maybe volume 3 or volume 3 is the musicals, right?
Exactly.
One of the things I would like to do down the road is I would like
have to.
I'm not a fan.
Just not my strong point. Could we maybe do westerns or?
Well, I know Mike and Lisa Morton are a big fan of doing fantasy, and I think if you can define fantasy as anything that is A, supernatural, and B, not primarily designed to terrify, I think it opens up some interesting possibilities. Because one of the very first podcasts I did, we had to do our top 10 fantasy films, and I went Pulp Fiction for number 1. And me being able to do why Pulp Fiction is a fantasy film might make the book worth doing. I've also considered doing changing it up just a little bit and giving everybody to defend like their favorite genre TV show, because I think there's been enough of them now that it wouldn't just be all of us writing about the Twilight Zone or something like that. I'll try to do classic Trek. And the third thing I've kind of kicked around is there are so many weird films we couldn't do a whole book on. Like the one that Mike and I typically joke about is doing musicals. But maybe formatting it kind of like the old Golden Turkey Awards, just saying like here is my genre, and here is why I think this is the most subversive film within that genre. Like Jason, perfect chance for us to use our completely useless knowledge about little person exploitation films here.
Yeah, I'm sad our script never actually got produced.
Well, yet.
Yes.
But no way you get a whole book out of that. But here's your chance for just advocating for that one film. That way anybody's got a Western itch to scratch, or Vansploitation. Maybe like the weirdest films in the weirdest genres. We'll see.
Well, we probably could do a
I think
pamphlet.
Go ahead, Mike. Please go ahead.
No, Jason, after you, sir.
No, I just was about to say, I think you could easily do an entire book about musicals, transgressive musicals. It's certainly the
See?
material is there when you consider the nation of India. Absolutely
Hmm.
there.
My goodness. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes. I was immediately torn between Phantom of the Paradise and Just Imagine.
Not what's the one with Harry Nilsson?
Oh my God. Son of Dracula with Ringo Starr too.
No, I'm thinking of the one in the jail with Groucho Marx.
Skidoo.
Skidoo.
Oh
There you
my
go.
God.
There's material there.
Oh my God. That well, and really, if we just do weirdest films ever made, that's a contender for both those. Yeah, but for those of you not familiar with Skidoo, the legendary director Otto Preminger of Laura fame, when he hit his 70s, decided to see what all the kids were about the LSD. And if you're thinking like old, out of touch German guy trying to get into LSD culture, and it's even worse and more bizarre than you're imagining. It really has to be seen. When Harry Nilsson
Would Jailhouse Rock be a
without you
subversive musical?
sees the credits, and it's all from there. Yeah.
Would
But I'm sorry,
Jailhouse Rock be a pretty subversive musical, you think?
I think it'd have to be because
First
it's the
day?
first one to use rock and roll, right?
Yeah, and Elvis is a prisoner. They're all doing vaguely, I hate to say vaguely, or perhaps not so vaguely, homoerotic musical number in jail as part of it. If you go watch it,
Wow. Yeah, that
which seems
You
like
could certainly-
quite a bit for its era.
all righty. All right. Well, Bill, you've been quiet. You have a weird musical?
I don't know that many weird musicals. I know a lot of sort of standard stuff that were, classic high school fare back in the day, like The Music Man. But
Yeah.
what about the Blues Brothers as a
Oh my
weird
God.
musical?
Oh yeah,
Oh my God. I mean, the number of classic artists that had a much deserved second life because the exposure they got in that movie.
Yeah.
You just successfully pitched me, my friend. You're in.
Yeah, okay.
James
All
Brown
right.
is amazing in that film.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
I honestly,
Amazing.
who isn't amazing in that film? I mean, Aretha Franklin just blows the doors off.
oh my God,
There's
yes.
so many great performances in that.
John Lee Hooker.
So many wonderful cameos. Yeah, John Lee Hooker. But
Cab
I
Calloway.
still love the what is it? Murph and the Magic Tone. With the big shank carpet on the sides of all their speakers.
That's, whenever I have had times where I've let myself believe that my writing career was over, and my way of joking myself out of it is, okay, am I going to wind up going around pretending to be the good old boys and like stealing other writers' gigs? Or will I be doing like the writing equivalent of Murph and the Magic Tones? Just rocking that Ramada Inn lounge. Yes. Yeah. All righty. So yes, not sure where to go after that.
Well, we are.
I'm much more sold on musicals now than I was 5 minutes ago. You got to talk me into it. Now I'm kind of into the idea.
I was clutching at straws there for a minute, and I thought, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Well, if you decide you're going to do it, and I'm not suggesting that you do, because as your publishing partner, I can't advise you to do that thing. There is a layered and thoughtful essay to be written about Michael Jackson's The Wiz. I don't know if I'm the man to write it, but there's a lot to be unpacked there.
Magical.
Xanadu.
We need. Oh God, Xanadu, you're in my heart now, sir. You're in my heart now.
All right. I've got one. This one's gonna. Everyone's gonna go. It's controversial. It's from
Okay.
1934. Green Pastures.
Ooh. Could do something there. Yeah.
Ooh, indeed. Or maybe one shouldn't do something there. Take your pick.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, I have one of the most cerebral gatherings I have been party to in many a moon. I have to throw out my favorite internet fight starter question, since it is actually on topic for everything we're discussing tonight. Okay. I think the worst online fight I have seen that didn't just involve politics was somebody was throwing out, okay, if science fiction is defined as the impact of technology on our lives, does that not make The Sound of Music science fiction, since it's all about a woman losing her movie career because of talking pictures? And I just thought it was an interesting question. I wasn't ready for how vicious the comments got, even by internet standards.
I'm
Okay,
confused. You said
just so,
Sound
did you
of
say Sound of
Music?
Music? Julie Andrews
Right,
as a
right.
nanny?
No, that's animated. That's
Sing in the
Sing in the Rain. Sing in the Rain. I'm sorry. Sing in the Rain. Sing in the Rain.
That makes
Sorry.
more sense.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Now
Okay.
I get it. Okay.
Sorry, my bad.
The guy's girlfriend, the Baroness, was the Baroness an actress? I was trying to
I'm
figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm on break, people. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But yes, the actual question. Sing in the Rain. Yes.
Is it
I
a
think to a
science
certain
fiction
extent-
movie?
Yes, because it's about the impact of technology.
I think the comparison, I think that line may have come from Ray Bradbury, actually,
Mhm.
because he always had, a definition of sci-fi that was pretty expansive. It was either that or The Magnificent Ambersons that he said was a sci-fi film.
Oh wow.
I think to a certain extent, you sort of have to have like the magicness, the alienness there. I mean, I could say that The Age of Innocence is a sci-fi film because it's about the transition from a very an era, very specific manners to an era, of the telephone, of cars, but I think there has to be some kind of like like something strange there has to be going on.
Does that mean that
Okay.
Zhao, is that her last name, is Nomadland is a science fiction film then?
Ooh.
I don't know that
If you
movie.
think about it, and a film kind of close to home for me, in that literally it's about my home. It starts and ends in the town I live in. And in fact,
Wow.
I saw one of the actors from it 3 days ago because she lives here.
Wow. Wow.
So is that because that's all about like technological. I was here in 2011 when that town's factory became obsolete due to technological changes,
Wow.
and the entire company town shut her down, and 400 people had to leave. So is that a science fiction film? I think it feels more like one, as the character wanders around the West.
By that extension, is the Full Monty a science fiction film? I mean, here all these people are thrown out of work because the mill closed, right? And so they're all trying to find something else to do.
Plus, there's a notion a lot of people want to see middle-aged men take their clothes off.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's
I
a
can
really
attest that that's not
popular
true.
thing. Yeah. So that's definitely science. That's definitely
I actually,
science
my
fantasy?
interest in seeing Nomadland was not actually to see Frances McDermott take her clothes off, though she does in the film. But perhaps, never mind. I'm going to shut up now.
Okay. All right. Well, we're down to our last 5 minutes, so that might be the best time to move on to talking about other stuff that we're working on. So, Bill, you want to talk about the book that you've got coming out as I drop you the link to buy it here in our chat here?
Yeah. Now this link may be a tad bit premature because I know that the editor wanted to just double check things and make sure there weren't any issues with the print on demand. But I'm working with a group of writers called the Wiley Writers, who are publishing a series of horror anthologies, and the first one coming out is edited by Lisa Morton, who is also one of the contributors to both volumes of the Everyone's Gone to the Movies series. And now suddenly the name has gone out of my head. Tales of Dread, I think it is. No.
Just don't say Sound of Music. You're good.
So anyways, this is the first of a series of 5 anthologies featuring a lot of the folks who are in the Wiley Writers. Yvonne Navarro, Weston Oakes, Lisa Morton.
I've met Weston Oakes. Yeah.
Angel Lee McCoy, E.S. McGill, Lauren Rhodes. It's a pretty spectacular lineup of horror authors, and this is the first book. They're going to be released roughly every month from here until October. So, and yeah, this is the first one, and I have a story in it.
Awesome.
I'm quite happy with. So,
and I'll say a quick. I'll say a quick.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please. Go ahead, please.
Was Weston Oakes the author of SEAL Team 666?
I think he was.
Bill?
Yeah, I think he was.
No, I just want to say a quick hello to Angel Lee McCoy because we met some time ago because she ran our local comic and game store. So needless to say, that was my second home, and she was always a great person and very tolerant for an often demanding customer. So I've been very happy to see her have all the writing success that she's had, much deserved.
I have to say, when I mentioned that I was in the transgressive horror book, that got a lot of really jealous attention from many of the Wiley writers who are mostly horror authors. So I think a number of them had picked up a copy of it to check it out. So
please tell them we're always looking for pitches, and thanks to our wonderful backers, our backers will be picking 3 additional essays for Subversive Sci-Fi. So yeah, I'd be happy to talk about opportunities. All right. So Jason, I know
how much is the tier to be able to sponsor an additional essay? Because I want to make someone write about heartbeeps.
All right.
Well, that's an awful joke.
You have 2 options there. You could go for the It Conquered the World level, which is $200, and you get to pick an essay. You get your name in the book. You get PDF. You get digital. You get a 50% off coupon for print, and yes, you get an essay. Or if you want to go nuts and go up to our Master of the World level, you get PDF, EPUB, and print coupon for both Volume 1 and Volume 2, your name in the book, and you get to pick an essay. So the $200 or $250 level, depending on whether you've already got the Volume 1 stuff or you want to just catch up with one pledge.
I would happily write that essay on heart beeps just to see the 2 workers drinking beer out of Capri Sun packets from that movie. Do you remember that? They take Budweiser, it's in Capri Sun packets. That's the future. They put a straw on it.
Well, other than hopefully a Heart Beeps essay, Jason, what else you got going on?
I am working with a group of other writers on a swords and sorcery role-playing game called Blood and Doom, which you pretty much know what it's about from the title, though it is very much about fate about things being preordained. It is not a happy feel good game. I got done editing a new organization book for the Champions universe, first one in like a decade. So called IHA Pride and Prejudice, about the Institute for Human Advancement. Over at Hero Games Patreon channel, we've got a couple of essays our patrons are reviewing. One by my, and perhaps some of you knew him, our deceased friend, Michael Satran. His final book is up there. People are looking at it chapter by chapter. And I am still looking for a publisher for my unpublished manuscript for Greats by Terrible Men. My review on the very best works by the very worst men. Not completed, but if anybody out there is listening, you want to publish it, it's a laugh riot, or as much as a laugh riot as talks about Louis Ferdinand Celine's political life could be.
And it is a book for our times as we continue to struggle with separating the art from the artist. Okay. All right. Rob,
Yes.
do you have anything you want to talk about? I'm sorry, Jason, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, yeah, I addressed that in great detail in my introduction, like the whys of why I have such a book.
All right. And Rob, do you have anything you're working on you want to talk about?
Well, actually, yeah. Oddly enough, I'm doing an RPG that is based on the journey to the end of night. So it's very strange.
Really?
No,
That would be amazing.
No, not as such. I have a couple of things on the back burner, but better for now.
All righty. And Mike, what's coming up this week on the BAMF family of podcasts?
Quiet week, except for tomorrow, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. We are playing White Star, old school science fiction role playing, based on like White Box, and running a setting called Reign of Discordia, which has been in the gaming circles for a decade or so. You might recognize as a setting from Darren Drader. One of the he's been in RPGs for a long time, so that'll be 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And that's all it's weird. That's the only podcast I have scheduled this week. Like I said, it's a little quiet. So,
all righty. Okay. Well, and one last thing before we go. Our volume 1 book, I dedicated it to longtime writer, creator Ed Naha, who celebrated a birthday earlier this week. And honestly, I might not write at all, and I certainly wouldn't write as well as I do had I not been exposed to Ed's work. So I want to wish a happy birthday to the guy this book is proudly dedicated to, and a lifelong influence on my work. So happy birthday, Ed. All righty. And thank you all for being a part of the show. Always a great opportunity. Great to get to talk to you, gentlemen. Thank you for the wonderful work that you have done and continue to do for Ghost Show. Thank you to the Let's Get an Updated Total while I play Jerry Lewis Labor Day Telethon. Get an updated total. Thank you to all 114 people that have backed us so far and have us at just under $36 with a lucky 13 days to go, and we really appreciate it. We're going to be back at this time next week on June 19th, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and we will be we'll have on some more fabulous creators from the project, and counting down the last 6 days to us funding. Yes. So yes, and thank you all for joining us tonight, and thank you, gentlemen, and good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.
Good night. Good night.